My fiancée said, "Cancel your groomsmen, they're immature, or the wedding's off." I smiled. "Then consider it cancelled." She thought I meant them, until I cancelled the wedding itself and announced the truth at the rehearsal dinner. Her face went pale as her entire family turned toward me. I, 32 male, was supposed to get married tomorrow. That's not happening. I'm the one who torched the whole thing, and now I'm sitting in my blessedly quiet apartment, surveying the wreckage of what I thought was my life. My 4-year relationship with my now ex-fiancée, Isabella, 29, felt solid until we got engaged. Then, wedding planning became a corporate takeover led by her and her mother, Eleanor. They had a very specific, very expensive, and very beige vision. My input was treated like a cute suggestion from an intern. I wanted a food truck. They wanted a string quartet. I learned to pick my battles, figuring the wedding was just one day. The marriage was the important part. But I wouldn't compromise on my groomsmen. My guys, Leo, Noah, and Ben, are my bedrock. We've been friends since childhood, the kind of brothers you choose. Isabella never gelled with them. She found their weekly game nights and loud laughter juvenile. The flashpoint was a custom gaming table my friends and I built together. To me, it's a monument to our friendship. To Isabella, it was cumbersome plywood that attracts nerds and needed to be replaced with a Peloton. The final straw for her was the suit fitting 2 weeks ago. My friend Noah did a hilarious impression of a celebrity chef, and the tailor was in stitches. The whole shop was laughing. Isabella stood in the corner, mortified that we weren't projecting the sophisticated image she demanded for her wedding. That night, the hammer fell. She sat me down on our beige sofa, her expression grim. "Alex, we need a serious conversation about your groomsmen." "Okay. What's up?" Their behavior today was utterly mortifying. My mother heard about it. It's all over town how they acted like buffoons. They are not the right look for our wedding, Alex. The right look? Izzy, they were having fun. They're my best friends. They're immature. Our wedding is an elegant, sophisticated affair. They're goofy. I want you to ask them to step down. They can come as guests. My brother Daniel and my cousin Julian have agreed to fill in. It's a much more cohesive, family-oriented look. The audacity was stunning. This was a premeditated strike. She already had replacements lined up. Me? Absolutely not. There is no version of reality where I kick my best friends out of my wedding party. They are my family. Her eyes hardened. The mask of the perfect fiancé dropped, revealing the cold entitlement underneath. "Isabella, then you have a decision to make. You need to decide what's more important, that plywood table and the nerds who come with it, or me and the life we're supposed to build. Cancel your groomsmen, Alex, or the wedding is off." She delivered the ultimatum with such certainty, so sure she had me cornered. In that instant, everything became clear. The beige furniture, the dismissal of my opinions, the contempt for the people I loved. It was all about control. It was about molding me into the right accessory for her life. The knot of anxiety I'd been carrying for months just dissolved. I looked at her and smiled. "You're right. This is a big decision. I have to choose." I paused, letting her savor her victory. "Then consider it cancelled." A wave of triumphant relief washed over her face. "Oh, Alex, thank you," she said, hugging me. "I knew you'd understand. This is for the best, you'll see." I didn't hug her back. She didn't notice. She was too busy basking in her win. She thought I meant the groomsmen. She had no idea I meant the whole damn thing. For the next 3 days, I became a ghost. She was giddy, bustling around with last-minute plans, telling people about the updated wedding party. I was polite but distant. She read my quietness as me being sulky, a small price to pay for her perfect wedding. Meanwhile, I was executing a quiet, methodical demolition. First, I called the vendors. Her father, Marcus, a wealthy man who loved a showcase, had paid the big deposits for the venue and caterer. However, my name was on the contracts as the primary client, and I had paid the initial booking fees. I called and officially canceled everything. As per the contracts, cancellations this late meant forfeiting all payments. Marcus's 6-figure sum was gone. I recorded the calls for my records. Next, I canceled my own contributions. The photographer, the band, and the 2-week honeymoon to the Maldives were all paid for by me. I ate the cancellation fees, then called the airline and resort. I canceled Isabella's ticket and kept mine. I figured I could use a vacation. Then, I dealt with the ring. It was an ostentatious diamond she and her mother had picked out. It was past the return date, but I took it back to the jeweler and signed a consignment agreement to sell it. I wanted it gone. Finally, I told my team. My parents were relieved. They'd seen the red flags for months. I called the guys and told them what Isabella demanded and what I had done. After a moment of silence, Leo just said, "So, does this mean I don't have to wear those shiny rental shoes?" We all burst out laughing. I told them the rehearsal dinner was still on, but it was going to be a different kind of event. I needed them there. They didn't hesitate. The whole time, Isabella was blissfully unaware, sending me pictures of floral arrangements. I gave one-word answers. She was too high on her wind to notice I was already gone. She had no idea that in less than 24 hours her perfect world was going to come crashing down. Update. The rehearsal dinner was held in a private room at a stuffy, upscale restaurant. Isabella's family was there in full force, a sea of cashmere and smug expressions. Her father Marcus was holding court and Isabella was gliding around the room, radiant. She looked like a queen. My parents sat at the far end of the table, their faces grim. Leo, Noah, and Ben were at a small table in the corner, a silent, solid unit of support. Isabella shot them a look of triumphant annoyance, thinking they were there to grovel. Her brother Daniel and cousin Julian, the replacements, stood awkwardly by the bar. The dinner was an excruciating affair of small talk. I just pushed food around my plate, my heart pounding. I was ready. Finally, Marcus stood, tapping his wine glass. "Friends, family," he began, beaming. "We are so thrilled to be welcoming Alex into our family. He's a fine young man, a perfect match for our Izzy." He raised his glass to me. "And now, I'd like to invite my future son-in-law, Alex, to say a few words." All eyes turned to me. Isabella was looking at me with a dewy, expectant expression. I calmly folded my napkin, placed it on the table, and stood up. "Thank you, Marcus, and thank you all for being here," I began, my voice even and clear. "I do have something to say, but it isn't the toast you're expecting." A flicker of confusion crossed Isabella's face. "A wedding has a way of revealing the truth," I continued. "And this week, I learned a very hard truth." I turned my head slightly to look at Leo, Noah, and Ben. Earlier this week, Isabella gave me a demand. She told me that my groomsmen, my best friends since childhood, were an embarrassment. She said, and I quote, "They were immature and not the right look for the elegant wedding she had planned." A gasp went through the room. Isabella's smile vanished, replaced by a pale mask of horror. "She gave me an ultimatum," I said, my voice never wavering. "I had to kick Leo, Noah, and Ben out of my wedding party. It was non-negotiable. She told me, 'Cancel your groomsmen, or the wedding is off.'" The silence was absolute. I let the words hang in the air before I looked directly into Isabella's wide, terrified eyes. So I made my choice. When she issued that ultimatum, I responded with 2 words: "Consider it canceled." She smiled and hugged me, believing I was caving. She believed I was canceling my friends, but she misunderstood. I looked around the room at her shocked family. I wasn't canceling my groomsmen. I was canceling the wedding. Chaos erupted. Her mother, Eleanor, shrieked. Marcus shot to his feet, his face turning red. "What is the meaning of this? What kind of sick joke is this?" I ignored him and spoke calmly to the room. "A marriage is about partnership and respect. I cannot marry a woman who would ask me to throw away 25 years of friendship for the sake of appearances. So, to be perfectly clear, there will be no wedding tomorrow." I then turned my attention to Marcus. "And Marcus, just so you know, I officially canceled everything this morning. I spoke with the venue and the caterers. As per the contracts you signed, your very substantial payments are, unfortunately, 100% non-refundable." His face went from red to a pasty gray. The financial blow hit him harder than the emotional one. I reached into my jacket, pulled out an envelope, and placed it on the table. "Isabella," I said, my voice softer now, "this contains the consignment agreement for the engagement ring. It was a conditional gift, and since the condition of marriage is not being met, it is no longer yours. You'll also find the receipt confirming the cancellation of your honeymoon ticket." Isabella just stared at the envelope, trembling. "My parents, my friends, and I will be leaving now," I announced. "We have reservations elsewhere, for a celebration." Leo, Noah, and Ben stood in unison. My parents followed. As we walked towards the door, the room exploded behind us. Eleanor was screaming about humiliation. Marcus was bellowing about lawsuits. Isabella was just sitting there, silent, as her perfectly curated world burned to the ground. We walked out into the cool night air, and for the first time in over a year, I felt like I could breathe. Final update. The weeks following the non-wedding were a storm of entitlement and manipulation. First came the social media smear campaign, painting me as a cruel, unstable groom who publicly humiliated his innocent fiancée for sport. They conveniently omitted the ultimatum. Next, a threatening letter arrived from a high-powered law firm, demanding I reimburse Marcus for over $200,000 in forfeited deposits, plus damages for emotional distress. Then came the issue of the apartment. I owned my condo outright, but Isabella refused to leave, claiming cohabitation rights, and that she was too traumatized to pack. She was squatting, hoping to make my life miserable enough that I'd pay her to go. But I was prepared. I wasn't going to engage in their drama. I was going to dismantle their attack with cold, hard facts. I hired a sharp, no-nonsense lawyer named Sarah. Our counteroffensive was swift and brutal. Sarah drafted a response to their legal threat that was a thing of beauty. It stated that the wedding's cancellation was a direct consequence of the ultimatum issued by their daughter, a fact we would be happy to contest in court. It included sworn affidavits from Leo, Noah, and Ben corroborating my story, along with a transcript of my recorded call with the venue. It concluded with a warning. If they proceeded with their frivolous lawsuit, we would vigorously countersue for malicious prosecution and harassment, and the entire embarrassing story would become a matter of public record. After a month of enduring the online slander, I made one and only one public post on my social media. It was simple text on a gray background. A lot has been said about my canceled wedding. To be clear, it was called off because I was given a non-negotiable ultimatum. Remove my 3 best friends of 25 years from my wedding party, or there would be no wedding. I was told to choose. I chose my friends. It was a painful decision, but a matter of principle. I will not be commenting further and wish everyone involved peace. The effect was immediate. My friends and family shared it. The narrative they had so carefully controlled shattered. For the apartment, I didn't text or call. Sarah filed a formal eviction notice. Isabella ignored it, so we proceeded with the court filing. She finally left the day before the sheriff was scheduled to remove her. She took some appliances and poured red wine on my office rug, but I just hired a cleaning crew. It was worth the cost to erase her presence. The resolution wasn't a dramatic courtroom showdown, but a quiet fizzle. Marcus's lawyers went silent. The threat of public discovery was too great a risk to their reputation. I heard through the grapevine that the fallout for Isabella was brutal. The real story spread through their social circle, making them look petty and ridiculous. Marcus lost face, and Eleanor was reportedly so embarrassed she quit her country club. Isabella had to move back in with her parents. Last I heard, she's still telling anyone who will listen that I ruined her life, completely devoid of self-awareness or remorse. As for me, the past 3 months have been cleansing. I sold the condo and moved into a new apartment, a place with no beige and no bad memories. The guys helped me set up the gaming table in my new den. I took that solo trip to the Maldives and spent 2 weeks enjoying the silence. It was there I realized the best revenge wasn't the public announcement or the legal letters. It was simply refusing to set myself on fire to keep her warm. She gave me an ultimatum, thinking she held all the cards. She didn't realize she was handing me the key to my own cage. I didn't just dodge a bullet. I dodged a lifetime of joyless conformity. And that's a better outcome than any wedding could ever have been.